Welcome you all to this 1 week evaluated course on project management using Git and Jira. Okay. So this particular session, that is the first part. So this particular evaluated course is divided into 3 parts. Okay. So the first part is let me just paste in the video. Okay. So the first part is basically Git. Okay. So basics of Git. The second part is how to use GitHub. And the third part is about project management. Okay. So let me just first get into the course outcomes. Okay. So the first course outcome is basically after completing this course, you will know the basics of Git and you will be able to create and manage a local repository. Okay. The second outcome of the course is to make you understand, or basically to uh, to explain you how GitHub works and what actually GitHub is and what is actually GitHub workflow. Okay. So how actually you should work on a project using GitHub. Okay. The third outcome is, so till here everything is fine. You can purely use GitHub and you can do the entire project management in GitHub also. But then there is something called as Agile Project Management. That is all the corporates or all the big companies use Jira software, Jira, for handling their projects. Okay. So when you start from the lower semester itself, by implementing Jira, and if you say that I know Jira very well or Agile Project Management very well in your resume, then it creates a big very good impression in front of your recruiters. Okay. So it's a very good concept or good thing to put in your resume. Okay. So once you learn, just by attending this course, it is not going to help you in understanding what is Agile Project Management. Okay. You have to actually implement it, then only you can actually use it. Okay. So begin let's begin with the course. So the first part, that is these 2 days, today and tomorrow, will be basically will be dealing with only Git. Okay. So what is basically Git? So before learning what is Git, we should understand what is version control. Okay. Now, what is a version control? So this is mainly important for people who work with softwares. Okay. So all those who are software developers, or in some way you are dependent on writing codes, then for them version control is very important. Now, why is it important? Because there are multiple things. First, it is possible that you will do some mistakes when you write your code. Okay. Now what happens is, if it's an immediate mistake, then you can easily rectify. But what if, now usually what happens is, when you work on bigger projects, you start building the code and then you realize that before 3 days or before 4 days you did some mistake, and because of that everything has gone wrong. So now you want to go back. Okay. Now if it's a single day's work, you may probably do Control Z to undo, and you can undo the all the mistakes. But if it's 3-4 days back, then there will be no undo feature in your editor, right? So that is impossible for you to handle, right? So that is where version control comes into picture. So what version control does is, it creates a copy of your code, so that whenever you do any changes, you save the copy. Okay. And once that copy is saved, the best part about this is, whenever you feel that okay, something went wrong, you can just go back and recover all your code. Okay. So let's say 3 days back, whatever code was there, you can get it back. Okay. So this particular thing is very important when you do software development, because in software development this thing happens very often. Okay. Now this is one use case. Second use case is the most important. That is why it is mainly used, that is to collaborate. Okay. Now why is it required for collaboration? So let's say now when you go to industries, it is not a single person's job to work on a particular project. There will be multiple people working on a same project. So now if multiple people are working on the same project, you cannot tell the other person that you stop writing the code till the time I am writing the code. Okay, so they are all working on the same project at the same time. So what happens is all the codes may collide, right? So for collaboration also, you need a tool which can actually check for what are the changes that have been done by the other person and merge your code accordingly. Okay, so basically this can also be done, the merging of the code from different developers can also be done with the help of version control. Okay, so these are there are many other reasons also, a central location for all your data. So like that, there are lots of things that in which version control is very useful. Now, what are the different version controls that are there? So there are many version controls: Git, Mercurial, SVN, Bazaar, CVS, and many more. Okay, but what we are mainly interested in here is Git. Okay, now why Git? So why not any other? Why Git? Okay, so Git is very famous. That is the number one reason. Okay, so there are many websites which host Git repository free of cost, like GitHub and all these things, right? So the main reason why Git is so famous is because it is distributed version control system. Okay, so it tracks your software changes, so source code changes, whatever code you write, it tracks your code. But here the main important part that you should consider is distributed version control system. Now I will explain you why this is like this, okay, and what is the importance of distributed version control. Okay, now before that, let's see who invented Git. Okay, can anybody tell me who is this?
Linus Torvald.
Yeah, so you can see he is Linus Torvalds, right? Now, can anybody tell me why is he famous other than Git, obviously?
Author of Linux.
Yes, exactly. So he created Linux, right? So that is why he is very famous, and also he created Git. So two best things created by the same person. Okay, so that is one thing you should know. Okay, then the next part is why I switched to Git. So before using Git around I think uh, 9 years back, I used to use SVN. Okay, so in the list you must have seen SVN. So SVN is also it was okay, but the problem was it was centrally located repository. It was not distributed. So the problem was, if you save anything on the SVN server, everything is stored on the server. Okay, and only the changes are stored on your local machine. So now what happens is, by chance, if the server is dead, then your entire project is dead. Okay, this was a big drawback of SVN. Okay, now let's come to Git. Now Git is completely different. Git, what Git does is it creates the complete copy at the local also and at the server also. Okay, at both the end. Okay, so the advantage here is, let's say my local system is corrupted and it is gone, so my data is there in the server. If the server is gone, then my data is there in the local. Okay, so at least one place the data, complete data, is there, so I can easily recover my project, right? And now someone may ask, sir, what if both the things are gone? Then it is just bad luck for you. Okay, there is nothing that can be done, or you, what you can do is you can just replicate it somewhere else so that the backup is there. Okay, so now let's start with what all things we are going to cover. So this was just the theory part that must be known to you. Okay, so first step is to install Git. Okay, so all those who are doing together, they can start by installing Git. Now before understanding Git, you should understand that Git and GitHub, these two are different. Okay, Git is the actual software. Okay, and GitHub is the service provider. Okay, so GitHub is a server where you can store your code. Okay, whereas Git is the actual version control software. Okay, so is GitHub the only site? No, there are many sites. There is one called as Bitbucket, there is GitLab, then there is GitHub, obviously. So there are many such sites which you can use, and you can host your own site also. Okay, so all these things, and in fact every hosting provider gives you their own Git version control. Okay, so that is completely up to you. But if you want to have Git on your local system, then you can go to this website. So I will post this link on the chat box, and you can install Git on your system. Okay, so this is the uh, site. Let me open this. Okay, and this is how it looks. So the site is git-scm.com. Okay, in there you can go to download site, and you can click which version you have, 32-bit or 64-bit. Click to download the setup. Okay, so let me just download it somewhere, and you can see it is around 47.8 MB. Okay, and after this is done, then Windows software installation, as you know, is very easy. You don't have to change anything, just click next, next, next till you reach finish. Okay, you don't change any options anywhere, just keep on going and clicking next, next, next. Okay, so in my system, obviously I use Git regularly, so it's already there, so I don't have to install it. But for you all, if it is not already there, you have to get it installed. Okay, so this is how you install it. You can click on the setup. Okay, and click yes. Okay, so this is how the setup looks like, and click next, and just keep on pressing next till you reach finish. Okay, so I'm not running the setup now, because that may mess up things for me, so I'm just quitting. Okay, so now once that is done, you just have to open your command prompt. Okay, so you can, if you have it in your tray, well and good. If not, then you can just type cmd and click on command prompt. Okay, so this is your command prompt. Right now, over here you just have to type git and press enter. Okay, if you get something like this, then that means your Git is installed. Okay, you can write git version to find out what is the version of Git installed on your system. Okay, so you can see my Git version is 2.28.0. Okay, so this is my version. Okay, so this is the first step, that is installing Git. Okay, now this, after installing Git, it does not mean you're connected to GitHub and now your site will your code will be stored in GitHub, nothing like that. Okay, this is what we are doing locally. Okay, how to send your data to the remote location, that is on GitHub, etc. We will see it in the next session, that is the next topic. Okay, okay, so that we have covered. Now let's come back over here.
So in that drop-down list, which one should be selected? 64-bit portal. Which one should be selected?
Here
Yes, sir.
it depends on your system. Okay, so let me show you. So if I go to my system, this is my PC. So if I go to properties, you can see my system says 64-bit operating system and 64 based processor, right? So that means I can use 64-bit setup. Okay, now if you look at over here, it has two options, 32-bit and 64-bit. Now the best part is 32-bit will work in any system. Okay, but then if you have an option to install 64-bit, then always go for 64-bit, because it will be faster if you have a 64-bit system. Okay, so if the basic thumb rule is, if you have a 64-bit system, then go for 64-bit. If you have a 32-bit system, then you can go for 32-bit. Okay,
Okay, sir.
okay, so now let's go back. Okay, so now the first thing, so we have installed our system, sorry, installed Git on your Windows system. And now the first step that you do always, this is a one-time step that I'm showing you. Okay, so whenever you install Git on a new system, you should always do this. Okay, otherwise it will give you error later on. Okay, so let me show you what this is. So basically what you are telling is, so whenever you do any commit, okay, any saving that you do of the code, it needs two things from you. Okay, so the first thing is your name and second thing is your email. Okay, so this is how Git knows who has done the changes. Okay, so for this you need to tell Git that my name is Shiburaj and my email address is this. Okay, so that has to be done. So let me show you how you can do that. Okay, so let's move on to our Git. Let me just clear everything. Okay, and what is happening? Okay, so how I do it is you just run git config. Okay, and then you give a flag called global. Okay, and then you can give either user dot name. Okay, so user dot name and space, then double quotes. Inside this quotes you can write your name. Okay, and press enter. Right, so this will be my name. Now for email, I will just say the same command, but instead of user.name, I will say user.email. And here it should be your email. Okay. So now it would be better, whichever email ID you're going to use to create your, what do you say, GitHub account, same email ID you use it over here also. Okay. So that will make the things better. Okay. So I use this. Okay, so this is my email, right? So if I press enter, that will be saved. Okay, now if you are not sure what are the settings currently stored, you can simply do git config list. Okay, so when you do list, you can see all the data that is being the config data. Okay, so you can see my two configs, so it is already being stored, so that's why I did not press enter. So user.name Shiburaj and user.email my email. Okay, so this is what I have set. Okay, now one thing, if you look in all these commands, that all the commands start with git. Okay, git. Okay, so all our commands will start with git. Okay, and after that there will be some keyword which decides which command you want to run. Like for example, in this case I am running config. Okay, so git config, right? So now there is an option. So let me go back to the slide. You have an option to do aliasing. Okay, so now what is this aliasing? Okay, so aliasing is basically, so you know, after a while you will see that you are continuously using various commands again and again, and you don't want to type the same commands, so same long commands again and again. Like for example, so there is a command called commit. Okay, so there is a command called commit, and you don't want to run type this entire commit command. Okay, so instead of that you can create an alias. Okay, so the alias is something like this. Okay, so alias dot anything you want over here. Okay, so this is the shortcut that you are assigning. Okay, so yeah, this can be anything. You can have one character, two character, three character. Okay, so this is like a shortcut for this. Okay, so once you run this command. Okay, so if you see in my command prompt, I have already created a command for status. Okay, so alias for status. So what is the code for it that I've used? Ci. Okay, so now what happens is, if I come over here and if I do git status, okay, so this is one of the git commands. If I run this, it will show not a git repository, obviously, because wherever we are running, it has to be inside a git repository, otherwise it will show this error. Okay, now what aliasing does is, I can instead do only this git ci. Okay, because what I've done is I've created a shortcut using the alias command. Now if I run this, you will see I get the same message. Okay, so that means the previous command required 5 characters to type, Now I have done the same thing using 2 characters. Okay. Now you may say, sir, what's the difference? Okay. Just 3 characters
Sir,
less. Yeah.
sir, repeat the repository part. My connection was lost.
No, I did not say anything about repository. So whenever you write git status, you should be inside a repository. Then only it will work. So we will come to that part a little later when we learn what is a repository. Okay. So my basic aim here was to tell you how to create shortcuts. Okay. So this right now will not help you. So it's better you keep this in mind that you can create shortcuts. Okay. Because in future, when you start working on actual projects, it will be a slightly difficult task, every time writing git status, git commit, git add, all these things. So if there are shortcuts, then it will create a better working environment. Okay. So nothing much over here except this alias part. Okay. So one thing you must have done till now is these 2 things must be done. Okay. So all those who are doing together, these 2 things must be complete. Okay. So you should set your name and you should set your email address. Okay. Now it is not necessary to create a GitHub account first. Okay. You don't need a GitHub account right now. This is all happening on the local machine. Okay. It has nothing to do with GitHub. Okay. So you can take any email over here, but if you take an email in which you are planning to use GitHub, that would be better. Okay. So let's continue. So now the important part, what is a
सर फॉर टेकिंग
repository?
लिस्ट आपने क्या बोला सर, गिट लिस्ट करने का?
हाँ, git list. It is git list, git config --list. Okay. Okay. Now what is a repository? Now there are 3 things in case of a git. Okay. So the first thing is a local folder where you are actually working. Okay. So till today, all those who have never used git, for them the local folder, that is any folder on your system, is the local folder. Okay. Working directory, you can say. That is not a git repository. Okay. So it is just a folder, right? Now to make it a git repository, inside your folder there should be another folder which should be called as .git. Okay. Now who makes this folder? It is git. Git only makes it. You don't have to worry. I will show you how to make that folder. But basically, once you have this folder, so if you want to check whether a particular folder is a git repository or not, you just have to see whether your folder contains this particular folder or not. Okay. So in your folder, whichever folder you're working on, inside that, if there is another folder which is called .git, then that means it is a git repository. Okay. So that is one way of checking it. There is one more way. I will show you how to do that. But once a folder has this folder inside it, git folder inside it, then that folder becomes a git repository. Okay. Now what is the use of the repository? Once it becomes a repository, it starts tracking your changes. Okay. Whatever code changes you do, then it starts tracking it. Okay. Before that, it has no role. Git has no role in anything. Okay. So let us see how can you create a repository? Okay. To create a repository, there are multiple ways. One, you can create a new repository, completely fresh, brand new repository you can make, or you can clone an existing repository. Okay. So now cloning is very important because it is possible that in a group there are 5 people. Okay. So the 5 members will not make 5 repositories. Okay. So only one member will make a repository. So for him, it will be the first step, that is new repository. Okay. But for the other 4, it will be cloning. Okay. So you will be cloning the existing repository. Okay. From either GitHub or Bitbucket or somewhere. Okay. So these 2 things you should understand. So there is an option where you can create a completely new repository, or you can clone an existing repository. Okay. So let's look at how this entire Git system works. Okay. So now if you understand this particular step that I'm going to explain you, then you will understand what actually Git is and what basic Git commands are. Okay. So let's look at the first step. Okay. So first step is you have to understand that there are three things. First is the local folder. Okay. This local folder is any folder on which you are working. Okay. So it can be on a desktop, it can be on the C drive, it can be on the D drive. Anywhere you create a folder, that is your local folder. Okay. So that is your folder where you are writing all the code. Okay. Then there is a Git server. Okay. So this you have just installed. Okay. You have downloaded the setup and you have installed Git. Okay. Then you also have GitHub. Okay. So this is just one example. You can have Bitbucket, you can have GitLab, anything. It doesn't matter, but there is a server. That is what I mean to say over here. Okay. So there are three things. One is local folder, second is Git, and third is GitHub. Now, what you do is write code inside this. Okay. So you write code inside the local folder. Okay. Now, whatever code you write, it is not at all tracked by Git. Okay. Git doesn't know anything about whatever you are writing inside the local folder, right? Similarly, the GitHub also doesn't know anything about what you are writing in the local folder. Okay. So before you start doing anything, first you have to tell Git that you want to track this folder. Okay. So that is when you create a repository. Okay. So to tell the Git that you want to track the repository is first step to convert this local folder into a repo. Okay. Repo is short for repository. Okay. To make this a repo, you run a command called git init, INIT. Okay. So the first command is very important, git init. Okay. So when you run git init, what happens is this local folder is now connected with Git. Okay. So now Git knows that there is a folder that you want to track. Okay. So now Git and for local folder are connected, but still Git and GitHub are not connected. Okay. So now what happens is now done. Now what you want is you want Git and GitHub to be connected. Okay. So for that, what you have to do is there is another command that is git remote. Okay. So once you do git remote and add your GitHub URL to the git remote, then this and this gets connected. Okay. So now you can see all the three things are connected. Okay. So to connect local folder and Git, you have to run git init. To connect Git and GitHub, you have to add git remote. So all these things I will show you demo. Okay. But before that, it is important that you understand which command to run at what place. Okay. So whenever you want to tell that you tell Git that you want to track a particular folder or you want to create a repository, you do git init. Okay. And when you want to connect Git and GitHub, you do git remote. Okay. Now everything done, all are connected. So now you start writing code inside your local folder. Okay. So you are writing line 1, line 2, line 3, you are writing the code. Okay. And now you're expecting that your code will come in Git. That is not true. Okay. So whatever changes that you do on the local folder, it doesn't come in Git directly. Okay. So the thing is that like in a notepad. Okay. So when you use a notepad, you can type anything that you want, but unless you press Ctrl S and save the file, it doesn't get saved. Okay. So if you close it without saving, everything is gone. Similar thing happens in Git also. So after you do the changes, if you do not commit, okay, so there is a technique called commit. After you commit, it goes to the Git repository. Okay. So then only the Git starts recording your changes. Till then, Git has no business in your code. Okay. So after you write some code, the first thing that you do is you run a command which is called as git add. Okay, so this is the first command that you do. Now, the actual command which puts the element into the git is another command, which is git commit. Okay, so the actual command is git commit. So what git commit does is saves everything from the staging area to the git repository. Now, what is the staging area? So actually there are three areas. Okay, so this is your working directory. Okay, so this is your working directory, wd. This is where you are actually typing the code. Okay, then there is a staging area. So this is SA staging area, and finally this is git dot git. Okay, so whenever you do changes, instead of directly saving inside git, you first say you actually whenever you want to give an exam, you first do a mock exam, right? It is like this. Okay, so before saving it directly to git, you first save it in the staging area, and after saving in the staging area, then you save it in the git. Okay, so to transfer something from the working directory to the staging area, you have to do git add. Okay, so git add, and from the staging area to the git, you will do git commit. Okay, so these two things are the most important commands in git. Okay, git add, git commit, git add, git commit. So whenever you do changes, do git add, then git commit. Okay, so these two commands continuously you have to do whenever you do any changes to your code. Okay, so whenever you want to save your code, you do git add and git commit. Okay, so as soon as you do this, all the data is stored inside git. Okay, so everything is getting stored inside git. Okay, now the best part is once something goes inside git, now you can undo it whenever you want. Okay, so whenever you want, you can come back. That is the best part about git. Okay, so how to undo it, we will see in tomorrow's session, but today we don't have we will not be covering that part today. Okay, so now once all this is done, so everything is stored inside git. Now if you expect that all the data should go in GitHub, no, that doesn't happen like that. Okay, so again the same thing happens. You cannot expect git to send everything to GitHub whenever you save your data. Okay, it doesn't work like that. Again, you have to run another set of commands to submit data to GitHub. Okay, so those commands are, so to submit data, you will do git push. Git push. Okay, so git push, what it does, it takes data from git and sends it to the GitHub repository. Okay, and there is another command which is called git pull. And can anybody guess what git pull must be doing?
Taking the code from the repository of the GitHub.
Yes, it will download the changes from GitHub to your local system. Okay, so basically whenever you do changes and you are ready to upload your code to GitHub, you have to do git push. Whenever, let's say your friend has done git push from his PC and you want to download his code, you will do git pull. Okay, so these two commands are used with GitHub. Okay, so when you're working with GitHub, so whenever you want to upload the code to GitHub or download the code from GitHub, you will use git push and git pull respectively.
Attendance का बोलेगा ना? Attendance का बोलेगा?
Okay, so let's clear.
Git init and git remote के बाद ये सब आता है ना, मतलब पहला first we have to git
Yes,
init.
yes, हाँ, ये connection, this is one time. So ये जो ऊपर का है ना, so this and this is one time thing. और ये जो है नीचे वाला, ये हमेशा करते रहने का जब भी आपको अपडेट करना है. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Con- So pulling and cloning, git pull and git clone. What is the difference between them?
Git clone is coming in the next slide. Okay, so let me go to the next slide. Okay, so the slide that we saw right now, where this is the first slide where the content is created at the local first and then we submit it to GitHub, right? मतलब यहाँ से यहाँ जा रहा है, left to right जा रहा है. Now the second is different. Second, where you create the repository first in GitHub. Okay, so you create your repository in GitHub and then you are downloading it onto your local computer. Okay, so in that case, the command is a different command. Okay, so in this case, you do one single command. Okay, so the command is called git clone. Okay, and the best part is whenever you do git clone, it connects git as well as it connects the local folder. Okay, so in the previous case, when you do locally, you have to do two different steps to connect both these things together, right? But if you start from GitHub, that means you go to GitHub and create your repository and then download it. So using git clone, then by single command you will do both the things. Okay, connecting एक ही साथ हो जाएगा. After doing the connection part, remaining everything is fixed. Remaining everything is same. So if you want to save changes from local computer to Git, you have to do what? You will do git add and then git commit. Okay, so from local to Git, you have to do git add and git commit. From Git to GitHub, you have to do push and pull. Okay, so remaining part is same, but only difference is if you are starting from remote, that is from GitHub, you're creating your repository in GitHub, you have to start with this command, git clone. Okay, and the best part is in the GitHub only, this command will be already there. Okay, you just have to copy this command and paste it, and it will be copied to the to your local system. Okay, so I will show the demo of all these things when
So in both the thing we have to use git clone. If
in
we
which
want to connect from git to local folder.
Git to local folder, git clone.
And
Git
from
to local
GitHub
folder,
to Git.
GitHub to local.
Okay. So in one step.
In one step, both the connections will be done. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's actually begin creating something. Okay. So the first step, let's keep this slides ready. And first step is you have to decide where do you want your projects to be there. Okay, so you have to decide a folder. Okay, so first let us see. I want to be in my desktop folder. Okay, so I will come to command prompt. Okay, so this is my command prompt. I will right now you can see I am, let me just clear first. Okay, so right now you can see I am in C:users power. This is my username. Okay, I want to get into my desktop folder. You can actually do this anywhere you like. Okay, so based on which framework or which language you're working on, it may change. Okay, so let's say if you're working on PHP and you're using XAMPP, then you will have to create this project inside the htdocs folder. Okay, so it depends. You can make it anywhere you like. Okay, so let's, for this value added course, you can create it anywhere. Okay, so I want to make it in desktop. I'm going into CD desktop. Okay, so once I do this, you can see my path is now CD desktop. Now where should I go? So I want to keep it organized, so let me first do dir and find out what all things are there. So my desktop is complete mess. Let me see which folder I want. Let me check from here. Okay, so I have a folder called my fun projects. I want to go inside that. Okay, so let me do clear. So I want to go inside my fun projects. Okay, so get inside that. Now if I do dir again, you can see there are lots of projects. I just do it for fun. So those projects are there, and I've created a folder called Git course. Okay, so this I have already created. So let's get inside this. So cd git course. Okay, so this is my folder in which I am going to work. Okay, so let's do a dir. Dir is basically to find out what is there inside my folder. So if I press enter, you will see currently nothing is there. Okay, so let me go to my fun projects folder and git course. You can see nothing is there. Okay, so let's create our repository over here. Okay, so let me open it side by side so that you can see what exactly is happening. So this is my folder on the right, and this is my command line on the left. Okay, so let's write the code. So the code to create a repository is very simple. Git init. So as I told you, git init creates a repository. Okay, now where it creates a repository, that folder name you can specify after the init command. Okay, so let's say I want to create a repository called blog. Okay, so I'm saying git init blog. Okay, if I press enter, so you can see it is saying initialized empty git repository. Okay, and you can see I have got a folder called blog. So this is my repository. Now how do I know this is my repository? So let's go inside and find out. Okay, if I go inside, can you see a folder called git.git? So this shows me that it is a Git repository. Okay, now probably some of you may not be able to see this folder because this is actually a hidden folder. Okay, so you will not be able to see this, but let me see if I can do dir. Okay, so you can see when I do dir on the command line, I see a folder called blog. So let's get inside that. So cd blog, and again let's do dir, and you can see in this I cannot see what do you say, the folder, because actually it is hidden. So if you want to see the hidden folders, what you do is you go to view, okay, and click on options. Okay, and click on change folder and search options. Okay, so this thing you don't have to actually do. I'm just showing if you want to see this git folder. Okay, so you can see hidden files and folders. So I have done show hidden files and folders. That's why I am able to see. By default this will be like this. Okay, so don't show. Can you see that is gone? Okay, so that git folder is gone, right? Because I have hidden all the folders. So let's click on show, click apply, and I have to enable the other things also. So okay, I think let me just do git status and check. Okay, so the git folder is there. Somehow I did some. Okay, show, apply. Okay, so now it's back. Okay, so you can see how you can see your git folder. Okay, but you don't need to actually ever go inside this folder. Never go inside this folder. You don't have to go inside this folder. Okay, because all you do is outside the folder. That is the reason why it is hidden. Okay, it is hidden from you for a reason. Okay, you don't actually have to go inside this folder. Okay, so now let's clear everything. Okay, and now uh, uh, the first command after creating a, so now your repository is ready. Okay, so you have created a repository called blog and it is ready. Okay, now the first command that you should learn after creating the repository is git status. Okay, so git status is very important command. which tells you what is the current status of your repository. Okay, so is there any files that have been changed? Is there any modifications? Have you deleted something? So everything is tracked by git status command. Okay, so I will show you how it works, but before that I want to create some files which I can track. Okay, so let's begin with that. So I will right click. So my favorite is Visual Studio Code. So I will right click on this folder and open with code. Okay, so I've opened this folder with code and you can see I have got this, right? So what I'm going to do is, right now you can see it is completely empty. There is nothing. So I'm going to add a new file. Okay, so let's add a new file. Let's call it index.html. Okay, so it can be any language, anything. It need not be HTML. It can be C file, Java file, any programming language file will do. Okay, so I'm just taking an example. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, so I have created a simple code. Okay, saved it. Okay, that's it. It is done. Right now, let's minimize this. I have created my first file and let's come to our command line. Okay, and let's do git status. Okay, so immediately you can see what git status command does. Git status tells you that no commits yet. Okay, so you have not done any commits. Second thing that it tells you is there are some untracked files. Okay, so what do you mean by untracked files? Okay, so a file in your local folder can be either tracked or untracked. Tracked means it is already there in Git and you have you can do changes to it, whatever. Okay, if you're creating a brand new file, okay, so if you see index.html I have just created, right? That means Git doesn't know anything about this file. That's why it is saying untracked files. Okay, so index.html is untracked files. Okay, so now what to do? So this is untracked files. So as I told you, now Git doesn't know about this file index.html. So the first step is to do git add. You can see it also gives you a hint what is the next step. Okay, so I can do, so I said whenever you have a file and you want to save it to Git, there are two commands that you have to run. One is git add, and after that immediately you have to write git commit. Okay, so let's do git add. Okay, now after git add you have to write the name of the file which you want to add. Okay, so I can say index.html. Okay, so let me just make it a little big. So you can see the entire command is something like this: git add index.html, enter. So now that's it, no error. That means that command is executed. Okay, so immediately after this you should do git commit. Okay, but because this is the first time we are running this command, I would like to show you what is git status after doing git add. Okay, so let's do git status and you can see what are the changes now. Okay, so now it shows git status. See, before it showed untracked files. Okay, after doing git add it says changes to be committed. Okay, that means the following files have been added to the staging area and it is basically waiting for you to commit. Okay, so if you commit this it will be stored. Okay, so let's commit it and see what happens. Okay, so let's see, we do the next command, very important, git commit, commit. Always needs a message. That's why I'm writing the flag -m. -m is for message, and here you have to write some message. Okay, so let's say ted index.html file. Okay, now whenever you write comments it should be meaningful. Okay, it should not be like step 1 done. Okay, step 1 done. What was step 1? Who knows, right? So it should be clear cut message what exactly you have done. Okay, so you can see I've created an index.html file. That's why in the message also I have written created index.html file. Okay, so if you have resolved some bugs, you write that I have resolved this bugs. Okay, I have added this feature. Okay, so like this, your message should be very meaningful. Okay, why? I will show you a little later. Okay, so let's do git commit, and you can see it says commit complete. Okay, so committing process is done. Let's do git status one last time, and see what happens. Okay, so this is what you get when there is no changes. Okay, so it will show you which branch you are working on, and nothing to commit, working tree clean. Okay, this is the message that you should be always working towards. Okay, so whenever you have a git repository, you will always like to have this message coming. Okay, this is like all okay message. Okay, so whenever you visit websites, if you get a 200 response, it means all okay, right? Similarly in git, whenever you get this message, it means everything is okay. Okay, other than that, any message comes, that means something is wrong and you have to do some corrections. Okay, so let's do one more thing. So right now you can see nothing to commit.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you explain git commit again?
Yeah, so I will repeat this entire process again for the next commit. So at that time you can check again. Okay, so I have you can see this thing is happening. So let's try to do one more change. Okay, so let's come over here and do one more change. I will say my profile page. Okay, so I've changed the title of my page. Okay, and I've saved it. Okay, now let's come back to our git and let's do git status. Okay, so immediately once I do git status, it shows me that which file has changed. Okay, so this itself is very helpful, because when you work on bigger projects, you tend to forget what all files have you changed, right? It becomes very difficult to find out how many files you have changed, how many which code have you changed. So keeping track of all these things is very difficult. That's why git status command is very important. Okay, so you can see by git status, immediately it tells me that this file has been modified. Okay, so once it is modified, obviously you can go back to the editor and find out whether the modification is correct or not. Or else if you have only changed this, then what you can do is the simple git commit. Okay, so let's do git add first. So git add. Okay, now instead of writing the file name like this, okay, index.html, there is a shortcut, because what happens is when you work on bigger projects, there will be hundreds of files that on which you are working, right? There may be possible that you are working on 100 or 100 files have changed. It's not possible to write 100 files over here, right? So it will be waste of time. Instead of that, what you can do is you can simply put a dot. So git add dot. Git add dot means everything. Okay, everything in this particular folder, if it has been changed, add it. Okay, add it to the staging area. That is what this command means. Okay, so once you get used to git, then you will be always using this command only. Okay, git add and dot. Okay, that's it. You will never put the file name again. Okay, so let's do git add. Okay, so that's it. My file is added to the staging area. Let's do git status and find out. Yes, you can see it is in green. Green means staging area. Okay, I'm waiting to be to commit it. Okay, so now let's do the committing part. So this is I'll explain this again. So once you do once you save your contents to the staging area, from there you have to store it to the git. Till you do the second step, it is not actually stored. Okay, so let's do git commit -m, and I will say changed the title of the page. Okay, so again you see I have written a meaningful message. Okay, now this is very important. Whatever you do, it should be a meaningful message. Okay, so this is the entire command. So git space commit space -m. -m is for message, and then in double quotes you write down whatever message you want. Okay, and press enter, and that's it. You are committed now. Okay, so now if you do git status again, you will see our favorite line: nothing to commit, working tree clean. This is what we always need. Okay, so I hope this still here. There are no queries.
No, sir.
Sir,
Huh.
sir, can we rename or change the repository name or even the file name in which it's stored?
By
Folder.
folder name.
Yes, sir.
Oh, very good question. I've never tried this, but I hope you shouldn't do it. I think you should not do it. Okay, but even if you change it, I don't think it will make any difference. Okay, so because the folder name is just for namesake. Okay, the main thing is you should not touch the .git folder. Okay, so in fact right now, even if I change this blog to blog 2, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, but it will make a difference in the hosting where you are, where you have given the path. There it may make a difference. Okay, so let's say for example I am using XAMPP server. Then host, if you have given blog folder in the configuration, and if you rename it, then the website will not work. Okay, but nothing will happen to Git as far as what I know. Okay,
एंड सर अगर मेरे को वापस से समझो मेरे को पेज वाले में जाना है, मतलब ये आपने ऐड करने के बाद वो पेज वाला का वर्जन रहेगा क्या बना हुआ वो?
कौन सा पेज वाला?
तब
इससे
सर जो
पहले
आपने
जो था वो
हाँ
ना?
जो चेंजेस था मेरे को वापस
Yes,
वही
yes,
चाहिए.
yes. That is why we are using Git. Okay, so we will come to that, how to recover old files. That we will we will see in a little while, if possible, if we have time.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, if there are multiple files and you have done multiple changes in that file, then how you are going to comment that?
How to write the comment?
Yeah, sir, for multiple files. Like I have index file and other files. So how can I write specific comment for index file and other file?
No. That is not how you write the commit message. Okay. So whenever, see, now if you are if your code has hundreds of file changes, that means you are doing something wrong. Okay, if you are, when you do git status and if it shows 100 file changes, that means you are lazy and you have not committed properly. Okay, मतलब आपने बहुत टाइम तक कमिट नहीं किया, वो तो आपकी गलती हो गई, right? So idea is what? So whenever you whenever you write a Word document also, do you commit at the do you press Control S at the end, और जब भी थोड़ा बहुत लिखते हो उसके बाद Control S दबा देते हो? कैसे करते हो आप लोग?
सर पहले दबा देते हैं.
बराबर ना, बीच बीच में दबाते जाते हो, राइट? Control S करते जाते हो, सेव करते जाते हो. Same thing happens in Git also. Whenever you make a small feature, okay, or a small code, maybe 2-3 files changed or 5-6 files changed, okay, immediately you commit it. Okay, so that the commit message need not mention every details of every file. Okay, it should only tell you what is the exact goal of changing it. Okay, so it is possible that added security feature in two-factor authentication in code. Okay, so when you do two-factor authentication, it is possible that at 9 location the code has changed. That does not mean I am going to write commit message, file 1 this change, file 2 this change. That is not how I write my message. I only highlight what is the major change that I've done. Okay, not file by file comments I don't write. Okay, any other queries?
No, sir.
So okay, I will take the queries if any at the end. Okay, so let's come back to the slides. Okay, so this was the how to create a new repository. Okay, so this is another command by which you can create your repository. Okay, so if you are inside a folder, okay, or if you have files already created, or you already have some code written, then instead of doing this command, the command we did to create a repository, git init directory name. Okay, instead of doing this, use this command, git init dot. Okay, so what git init dot does is it creates a repository in the existing folder, on the current folder. अगर आपने ऊपर वाला command use किया, ये वाला, if you use this, it creates a repository inside the name of the folder that you will give. Okay, if you already have a code, okay, inside a folder, if you're working on some project and that project you want inside git, then instead of doing this command, use this command. Okay, go inside that folder and type this command. This will create a git repository. Okay, so now let's move on to the, so this I have shown you how to do git add. You just do git add dot and then git commit. Okay, with a message. Now, so the most important part is how to check the changes. Okay, so checking the changes is very important. Okay, so let me come over here and let's first do git log and see what is the output of git log. Okay, so let's come over here, let's do clear and let's do the very important command git log. Okay, git log is going to be very helpful throughout the git process. Okay, so let's do git log, and what actually git log tells you is how many commits you have done till now, or basically how many times you have saved your work. Okay, so you can see I have saved 2 times. Okay, and this is the reason why I told you why that commit message is very important. Okay, so because when you do git log, can you see I can check the message, what was written. Okay, and who did it, who wrote this changes. Okay, this is my name because I have changed it. If multiple people are working, then their name will also come if they have changed anything, and on what time the changes have been done. Okay, so it shows me 3 things. And another very important thing is this big number is what identifies your commit. Okay, so this commit number is very important. Okay, you don't have to remember it, but you should know what is the number. You can always copy the number from here and use it. Okay, so I will show you how to use it tomorrow. Okay, so how to go back and forth between commits, that we will see in tomorrow's session. Okay, so now git log has different varieties. Okay, so let me show you what are the different varieties. So you can do git log. So you can see there are so many things displayed in git log, but sometimes you don't want so many things. Okay, so you just want the message that you have typed. Okay, so what you can do is just add git one line. Okay, you just add a flag one line. Okay, dash one line, and now you can see this is much more clear picture. Okay, so you know, when you have hundreds of commits, then looking it like this will be complete mess. Okay, this will be much better. Okay, so you can see for this you have changed this. The first commit is this created index.html. Okay, so the latest commit comes on top. Okay, so you can see the latest commit is change the title of the page. Okay, so if I keep on adding commits, it will keep on putting it one above the other. Okay, so I will tell you what is this head and what is this master but a little later. Okay. Then there is one more way of looking at this log is using graph. Okay. So using graph. So if I run right now, it doesn't make much sense to look at this. Okay. But if you, what do you say? If you have a bigger project and if you actually use what do you say, Git flow, the flow that I'm going to discuss later. So there you will see a proper branching and divisions and all these things when you do Git graph. Okay. So I will show this to you a little later again, when after we created lot of Git repositories and branches and all those things. So after that it will be much more clear of how this graph thing looks like. Okay. So that's for Git log. And one more thing is left for today is Git diff. Okay. Now what is Git diff? So I have made some changes, right? So you can see I have two changes, right? So let's do one thing. Let's come over here in this file and let's add some code h1. Okay. So I've added my name in an h1 tag. Okay. So let's come over here and let's do Git status. Okay. So when I do Git status, obviously something has changed, right? And it is in red. That means you have to do git add and git commit. Okay. So there is something that has been changed. So if you want to save this, you have to do git add and then git commit. Okay. Now, before doing this, if you want to find out what all things have changed, you can simply do git diff. Okay. So when you do git diff, what it does is it finds out what all files have changed and what all things have changed. Okay. So you can see whenever, so this is how it outputs in the command line. Okay. And in the command line, whatever is there in green, it means the files have been added or the lines have been added. Okay. So you can see a plus sign over here. Okay. Plus means that particular line is added. Okay. If there is a minus sign and if it is in red color, that means that line was removed. Okay. So let us do one thing. Let's do a git add. Okay. And then do git commit -m and added title. Okay. Or my name. Okay. So my git commit is done. If I do git log, you can see 3 commits are there. Added my name is the latest commit. Okay. So everything is fine. Now let's come back to the code and let's add one more code. Okay. So let's say paragraph. Okay. So I've added me. Okay. And instead of this, I'm going to do h2. Okay. So I have added this line and I have replaced this with h2. Okay. So let's see what happens. How does this git diff show me? Okay. First, let's do git status and see. So it has found out that index.html has changed, obviously. Now let's do git diff. Now, if I do git diff, you can see how exactly the things are working now. Okay. So it shows me that this particular line has been removed. Okay. Because minus sign hai and it is in red color. Okay. That means what? This particular line is removed by me. Okay. And instead of that, I have added 2 new lines. One is h2 Shiburaj and another line is paragraph me. Okay. So this helps a lot when you write code. Okay. So you can do git diff and find out, because see, once you start writing code, it is very difficult to identify which part of the code you have changed. Okay. And sometimes this happens that unknowingly some other part of the code changes. Okay. So if you once you commit it, then nothing can be done. Okay, because many things can be done, but why to unnecessarily commit something which is not correct, right? So it is always a good idea, if you're not sure, do git diff and find out what are the things that have changed. Okay, so usually how I do it is, whenever I write code, I don't write so many code at once, because then if I do git commit, then I it is very difficult to identify what all things I have done. So what I do is, I do small things, small features, and immediately I commit it. Okay, so that I can properly undo it whenever I want. Okay, second thing is, because I'm doing small task at a time, I exactly know how many files I have changed, right? So what I do first is, I do git status and I check how many files have changed. Is it the exact number that I have actually changed? If I find any file which is not actually changed by me, then I immediately do git diff and find out exactly what has been changed. Okay, if something by mistake I have changed, I will undo it and only commit those changes which are actually required. Okay, so that is I think that is it for today.
Sir?
Yeah, undo changes. Yes.
Sir, how to access your repository?
How to access a repository? I understand. How to access a repository means?
Means local file अगर delete किए तो उसको access कैसे कर सकते हैं?
Local file delete किया तो?
हाँ.
See, once if you delete a file which is not tracked, okay, that means आपने git add or git commit नहीं किया है, then there is no way to recover it, because git को पता ही नहीं है कि आपने वो file बनाया है, right? So then there is no way. But once a file gets inside git, then you can recover it anytime. आप उसको delete कर दो, आप उसको remove कर दो, कुछ भी कर दो, but वो git के अंदर से नहीं जाता है. Okay, so it is always there in git. So anytime you think, अरे मैंने उस दिन एक फाइल डिलीट किया था, वो चाहिए मुझे वापस, you can get it. Okay, that is what we are going to start in the next session. Okay, so check the next section is about undoing changes. Okay, so that will be started by tomorrow. Okay, so now we can have any queries if anybody has.
Yes, sir, there is a query.
Yes.
Can we directly communicate between local files and GitHub instead of Git?
No, you cannot. You have to have a local repository. Okay, Git में रखना ही पड़ेगा, because Git is actually sending the data to GitHub. Okay, so you have to have Git on your system. So it is like if you only have Git, if you only have a folder, and if you think you can directly send the data to GitHub, then you can, but you have to go to GitHub and paste your code over there. Okay, that is a very tedious task. Nobody does that. But if you want to do that, then that is up to you. Okay, but never do that. Okay, so it is better you install Git on your system.
So there is one more query.
Yes.
It says that how to add the entire folder.
How to add
the entire folder?
Git add dot. Okay, so that command is there. Git where is this? Git add dot. So when you do git add dot, all the contents that are changed, that is added to the folder, added to the staging area.
So that's it for the day.
Okay, so
1 minute, sir. 1 minute.
Sir, what exactly repository means, sir?
There is one more query.
हाँ, तब तक मैं repository बता देता हूँ. So repository is nothing but it's a way that Git tells you that it is being tracked by. So whenever Git tracks anything, okay, it puts it inside the repository. Okay, so repository is nothing but a place where it's a folder where Git saves all its data. Okay, so the folder where you are working, that is this folder. So you can see in this folder, So whatever code you write, that is your code. Okay. But whenever you do git add and do git commit, that code is taken from your folder and is put inside this particular folder. So this folder, inside this a repository is created that is handled completely by git. Okay. So जो भी changes save करना है, जो भी changes track करना है, वो सब git करता है, but inside this repository. So repository is just a fancy word of storing data in one place. Okay. So git stores all the data inside this folder that is called as a repository.
So we have a lots of query. Can I start it?
Yes.
If we delete a file and even from the recycle bin from the repository, can it be restored?
There is no recycle bin in the repository. Okay. So that is, there is nothing called as recycle bin. So once you put it inside git, then you can recover it. Okay. There is very little chances unless you do force cleaning, okay, or force remove. Unless that is done, there is no way a file that is stored once inside git can be removed. Okay. So unless you purposefully do it, till that time git will save you. Okay. So that is the main reason. Okay. It may happen that you have group members with you and one of the group members leaves your group, but before leaving he deletes everything and goes. Okay. But that doesn't matter at all. Even if he deletes, you just do undo. You can go to the previous commit state and recover all the files. Okay. So nothing to worry. Git has you covered in that case.
So there's another query says any alternative for git LFS. Git.
Any alternative to git LFS? Now, so I have shown you all the different what do you say, version control systems, and when you store some things on the git system, so it stores it in its own way, so we don't have control over it. Okay. So I don't think there is an alternative. If there is, please let me know.
If so, another query.
Yes.
If OS is not working proper, then also GitHub helpful to collect the file?
Yes, if the OS is corrupted. Okay. So once if your content is inside git and you have not pushed the data to GitHub, then your data is gone. Okay. Nothing can be done. Okay. But whenever you do some major changes or whenever you write some code, at the end of the day, always have a practice to do git push and save it to GitHub or Bitbucket or anywhere. Okay. So that even if tomorrow when you start your PC and your PC doesn't start, you still have all the data with you in GitHub. You just have to clone it and get it on your PC. Okay. So so the working of the computer doesn't matter. Always remember to push your data to your server. Okay. So that everything is saved.
The another query says shortcut to add and commit at the same time.
Shortcut to add and, so there is a flag called AM -AM. So that can be used, but I don't use it personally. So you can try that -AM.
The another query says, what's the role of GitHub?
What is the role of GitHub? Okay, so GitHub is the central repository where your data is getting stored. Okay, so when you save it in a local computer, you actually don't need GitHub at all. Okay, but the problem is if you store it in a local computer and tomorrow when you start your PC and it is not turning on, then your development is stopped. Okay, let's suppose worst case scenario, your hard disk is corrupted, your entire data is gone, that means your project is also gone. Okay, so to avoid this, what we do is we keep the data in Git in the local, at the same time we push it to the server, so that by chance, if something happens to your system, it is still there in GitHub. Second thing GitHub helps in is for collaboration. Okay, so if multiple people are working, so all of them have to have a single point of truth, right? So somebody has to get the data from somewhere first, right? So they cannot come to your PC and get the data. So what they all do, send data to GitHub and get the data from GitHub. Okay, so that is how GitHub plays a role in saving your data, at the same time collaboration also.
The next query says, what's the role of GitHub? So I guess you
Yeah,
explained it right
the
now,
same
sir.
thing. Yeah.
The another query says that if someone restrict repository, is there any way to access that repository?
If it's a public repository, then yes, you can clone it. Okay, so when we learn about GitHub in the third day, we will see that you have an option to create public as well as private repositories. Public means anybody can copy your code. Okay, they can clone it. Okay, so all these open source projects that you see on the internet, like Laravel, Node.js, React, all these things, so all these are open source. Okay, so you can copy the code from the original source, but some projects are very restricted, like our college management system, so they are private repositories, so that cannot be accessed by anyone unless you are a team member. Okay, so if you're team member, then the team members can only access it. Okay.
The next query says, sir, can I use git bash instead of command terminal?
Yes, you can. In fact, I just showed you terminal because this is by default familiar with everyone, but when you install git what do you say git scm, that is the git server, you will see when you right click on the folder, you will see two options. One is git bash, okay, and one is git GUI. Okay, so GUI is also there for git. Okay, you don't have to memorize all the commands, but there is a big disadvantage of using GUI that I will explain it tomorrow, why you should not go for GUI. Okay, so it is necessary that you learn the commands. Okay, it is absolutely important. And if you use git bash, it is absolutely same, but it is more like a Linux interface. Okay, Linux terminal kind of a thing. It is same, थोड़ा ज़्यादा colorful है बस, और कुछ नहीं. But I like the same. In fact, I don't use both of them. I actually use directly within Visual Studio Code. Okay, so in Visual Studio Code, if you just press control, control and tilde dabaoge, so you will get the terminal option. Okay, so this terminal itself you can use to run all the command. Okay, you don't actually need the command prompt also. Okay, so I never use the command prompt, neither I use git bash. I just use this terminal itself because it is very inconvenient to switch tabs and go to a different window. It is better that I simply use the inbuilt terminal. Okay.
So there's another
Sir,
query.
this
says,
terminal is connected with command prompt, मतलब real command prompt के अंदर भी वही चीज हो रहा है ना?
Yes, same. Yes, ma'am.
The another query says, do we have to add and commit after every change?
No. That is not how it works. So whenever you feel that, okay, so now my things are working properly. So see, what happens is when you write the code, you don't commit after writing the title. Okay, this was just an example. This is not how you actually commit. So you design the entire page, and then when you see that, okay, I'm happy with the page, then you commit. Okay, you're writing an application and you have created a database connection, and some things are working, adding part is working, deleting part is working. then you immediately commit. Okay, so whenever you see that some major changes have been done and things are working properly, okay, if the things are not working, then probably you should not commit, because commit means you are saving that particular state and you're assuming that your code is proper. Okay, so it is better that whenever certain things starts working, or like if you create a page where you're adding some products to the cart, if that part started working, then immediately commit it. Okay, so that is how you commit, not by whenever there is one line of change, you don't commit at that time.
That's it for the day, sir. We have
सर इन
discussion.
सर लाइक गूगल ड्राइव लिंक का फोल्डर्स भी हम गिट में डाल सकते हैं क्या, कमिट कर सकते हैं, एक अलग से फोल्डर बनाया खाली लिंक से उसमें?
You can actually create, you basically this is for any text file, okay, not binary files. Okay, binary files like images, videos, any songs, so ye sab store karna is like waste of capacity, because see, you have to understand what is Git. Okay, Git actually tracks changes to code. अभी जो बाइनरी फाइल्स रहते हैं, बाइनरी फाइल्स मतलब जैसे कि इमेज, वीडियो, mp3, these doesn't have any code in it, right? So there is no changes that is going to happen in the code, so there is no point of adding that to the Git. Okay, so there are ways how to avoid such things. I will show it to you in the last slide, how to ignore such files. Okay, so you should not do that. You should you can create a text file, in that you can put all the links of Google Drive, that is also allowed. Okay, that is also a good idea. Okay, there are some queries in my chat box. So if I want to update my username and email, okay, so that's a very good question. So once I set my username and name, sorry, not username, email and name in Git using Git config, you can change it whenever you want. Okay, it is not necessary that you cannot change it. You can change it whenever you want. In fact, you can have a local name and email also. Okay, per repository you can have different email. You just have to use, instead of global, you just use local. Okay, so things happen, like for example, in my case, I have a different account for college related work and a different account for personal work. Okay, so whenever I'm doing personal, I shift my environment, I change the name and email, and whenever I'm doing college related work, my the name and email changes. Okay, so you can have multiple things. Okay, one more question is there: if we are starting a new project, at what stage we should consider committing? Okay, in fact, I would tell you, start with committing. Okay, so that means if you are what I normally do is, whenever I create a project, I first create a file called, let me show you. Okay, I create this file, readme.md. Now why, I will tell you in the third day. Okay, so all those who already know GitHub, they must be knowing why I created this file. But for others, this is the first file I create. Okay, and inside this I use markdown and let's say my project. Okay, I just type the name of the project and then I save it and commit it. Okay, that is always my first commit. Okay, so that I will tell you why this is important, and then I start writing my code. Okay.
Sir, if we have written the whole, completed the whole project, and after that we want to add and commit it, then?
Yes, anytime you have completed, you have delivered, you have uploaded the code, even after that you can use anytime you want. You have changed the code. See, when do you use Git? Whenever you change the code. If you have changed the code, you do git add and git commit, save it in the Git, then you do git push to the GitHub. Okay, simple. ज्यादा सोचना ही नहीं है इसमें.
So the adding and committing is to be done the first line.
Adding and committing.
मतलब अच्छा वो तो टर्मिनल कुछ नहीं था. Nothing.
Okay, so another question is what is git stash? So git stash is something completely different. So we will not be able to cover git stash in this course because we have very limited time. So I will put another link to another course where I have explained in detail how to use git. Okay, so that particular video I will also post where you can see about how it is git stash. So I will just give you a brief. So if you are working on some code and immediately you realize कि कुछ और गड़बड़ है कोई और part में, okay, so what, so that is more related to branches. So branches वाला जब part आएगा तब git stash समझ में आएगा. So when you create branches and you work on a branch and immediately you realize कि मुझे कुछ और changes करना है, but you don't want to commit also. Okay, मुझे commit भी नहीं करना, ये मेरा complete नहीं हुआ है, but I want to go to the previous branch. Okay, so you can do git stash. Okay, git stash क्या करता है, temporary save करके रखता है जो भी changes है. Okay, and then when you come back you can recover all the changes. Okay, so one last question is there, sir. When we upload Git data to GitHub, then we should delete Git data or not, because it will take space in hard disk. Very good question, Josefa. I never delete my code from my PC. Okay, reason being, GitHub पे 100% भरोसा नहीं कर सकते. कल अगर GitHub का कुछ तो कैलेमिटी आया और डेटा सेंटर ही उड़ गया, then what? Your entire project is gone, right? So that's why I always keep a backup on my PC also. Okay, but I'm hoping that ऐसा कुछ नहीं होगा. So it is safe. You can delete your copy. Okay, you can safely delete your copy, but I don't. I keep all my projects in my PC also. Okay.
Sir, GitHub is free or paid?
GitHub is free, and in fact, it gives you $10,000 worth of features for students. Okay, if you use our college email to create GitHub account, you get around $10,000 of free goodies. Okay, so I will show you how you can get that. You can, in fact, you can just search Google for GitHub student education pack. Okay, so you can just search for that, and when you sign up, use our college email ID. Okay, after you do that, you get free hosting and free lot of things free they give you. Okay, there are thousands of dollars of free stuffs. Okay, another very good question. What if I created a logo for a company, and as you said, binary files cannot be, see, I never said cannot be. You can store videos, you can store MP3, you can store images also. There is no problem. You can store basically anything in Git, but don't waste your space by storing 2 GB movie inside GitHub. Okay, it is actually useless, right? So I'm just saying कि मत करो. नहीं हो सकता ये नहीं बोल रहा हूं मैं. You can store anything. Okay, so if it's a company logo, definitely you should store it, otherwise your company website will look bad, right? But like for example, in our CMSys project, right? So there are images for different sections, but there are images of students also. That student images is not there in Git repository. Okay, Git doesn't have that, but it has images of college logo, any other logo that is there. Okay, so you have to decide which photos should be there in Git and which photos should be omitted. Okay, videos तो definitely नहीं डालने का कभी, except अगर छोटा video तो डाल सकते हो. Okay, because you have limited space in your GitHub account. Okay, so if you use your space with movies, then it is a waste of your memory. Okay, yeah, it's called Students Developer Pack. Okay, so the GitHub provides you Student Developer Pack, so you can apply for that. Just use our college email ID and you will get it. Okay, how much space does GitHub give you? Okay, I think it is 500. I think it is, no, I think 2 GB per project, something like that. I'm not sure. They keep on changing their terms and conditions, so I'm not exactly sure. I will let you know how much space GitHub gives you. But frankly, none of my project has never crossed even 100 MB. Okay, that is because there are certain ways in which you should skip certain files. Okay, that all these things I will teach you how to reduce the size of your repository, because unnecessary files should never be stored inside your Git repository. Okay, so that part we will see later. Okay, so that's it. Any other queries?
No, sir, there are no more queries.
Okay.
Thank you so much.